All right, Chad, Wesley Smith here for Juggernaut Training Systems. Just going to be answering some questions that are coming in on Instagram and Facebook and comment sections and whatnot. I figured this would be a good use of my rest periods because my training is not actually that interesting anymore. So I'll only be able to impress you with my mind, not my body. I can bench more than this, though. This is just a warm-up set. All right, so if you are to miss a week or two of training in the Juggernaut AI app, what should you do? So this question comes up a lot, and it all really depends on if you're getting ready for a meet or not. If you're getting ready for a meet, well, my first suggestion would be don't miss a week or two of training. That's an insane concept to me if you're getting ready for a meet. But if you're not, you're just training to train, or if you're like, whatever, man, I've got other stuff in my life, so I might miss a week or two of training, or I got sick or whatever, how should you adjust? So then, if you are getting ready for a meet, it matters how far out from the meet you are. If you're 15 weeks out, I'd just probably reset a new program then and go from there. If you're 5 weeks out, then it's going to be a bit tougher to catch up. So if you were to miss 1 week, and let's say it was the second week of a 3-week block, so you're 3 weeks up, then a deload week. You could just call that your deload and then repeat the week that you missed, or so do week 2 and then week 3 and not have a deload. Your week 2 would probably be a little bit lighter than it normally would. Your week 3 might be as well, and then you're going to need to start, but you'll still be going heavier, and then start the week 1 of peaking, maybe a little bit lighter than you normally would. So there's some built-in fatigue management with that. You could take the primary exercises and spread them out to the next weeks, or you might just have to not have done that week, and such is life. But a lot of that's going to depend how you feel fatigue-wise. I'd say the simplest thing would just be to go back and do that week, and then you're going to skip the deload because you already kind of had a deload, though not as good of one because you were sick. If you're not getting ready for a meet and you miss a week, well, just go back and do it. If it was like week 1 or 2 of a block, I'd probably go back to the start of the block and go again. But, you don't have to be bound by the mock meet date in there because it's mock meet. So just do it whenever you want. Yeah, so if you're an iOS user of the Juggernaut AI app, there is something called SmartBarbell that you get free access to, and that's camera-based velocity tracking. So with that, you can use it to inform your RPE. And the best way for you to do that is to have a video of a true RPE 10, whether a single or a set of reps. And then from that, that's the slowest I can go and still make a lift. So let's say that's 0.18 meters per second. Now you know that if you see a rep get to 0.18 meters per second, that was RPE 10, or very, very close to it. If you have a multiple rep set, you can kind of work backwards from there. Like, all right, the last rep of this, what I know to be an RPE 10 set, was 0.18 meters per second. The second to last rep was 0.22 meters per second. The third to last rep was 0.26 meters per second. So then all right, if I did a rep that was at about 0.22 meters per second, I can call that 9 RPE because I still did a rep after that. So you had 1 rep left, and so on and so forth, working backwards from there. Everyone's going to have a bit different numbers there. I was good at doing lifts fast and not very good at doing them slow. Typically, more advanced lifters are better at grinding them out. I'm pretty advanced, so that's not a universal situation, but the best way for you to use it is to, have a video of you doing an RPE 10, put it in, see what those numbers look like. They'll probably be a bit different for squat than they are for bench than they are for deadlift. That's going to be the most accurate way for you to use it. Just upload an old video in and see what the speed was like on that. All right, so I got a question about what is my favorite coaching memory. There are 2 that stand out in my mind. Number 1 favorite coaching memory, I'd say is, or maybe not number 1, but the first one I'm going to tell you about, is Marisa breaking the world record total This was at the 2017 Arnold, and it was the best meet I've ever been part of as a coach or a lifter. Marisa went 9 for 9, squat PR, bench PR, deadlift PR, world record total, all-time world record total. And side note, when you say world record total, if it's not the all-time world record total, it's your federation world record. It's not the world record. There's only one world record total for every weight class. Yeah, and you can get into the categories, age, and equipment and whatnot. But she broke the all-time world record total for 114 pounds, 52 kilo class women. And that was just an awesome day. It was like everything was perfect. It was a huge crowd. So that was great. I even liked that one more than a couple months after that when she won the IPF World Championship, because the Arnold's just so much more hyped up. IPF Worlds in some sort of weird skating rink in Minsk, Belarus at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday morning was not an incredible atmosphere. So I'd say that's one of them. And then my other one is I got to help my adolescent hero, Adam Nelson, who's the 2004 gold medalist in the shot put. Someone I had his, a picture of me and him pinned up on my bulletin board in high school and college. And, I was throwing the shot put in college. He was someone I always really looked up to. We got to connect several years later in 2014, as both when we were speaking at a seminar and went out to dinner, and it was like, oh my God, this is so cool. You get to meet your heroes. So fast forward a couple of years from that, and we had stayed in touch, mostly talking business stuff as he was running a gym in Georgia. And he asked me one day, called me up and was telling me about how he wants to try and go to the Olympics again or throw at Olympic trials the year that he turned 40 in 2016. And I was like, oh, Adam, that's so cool. That's great. And he's like, will you coach me? And, it was like jarring, like, excuse me, like, come again? You're asking me to coach you, Adam Nelson? So I got to write all of his strength and conditioning stuff and kind of help him organize when to throw which weight and how hard and how many throws to take and all that good stuff. And then went to 2016 Olympic trials with Adam and his family. And while I'm sitting up there with his wife and daughters and his parents for shot put, the first event of the 2016 Olympic trials, they did this surprise gold medal ceremony because Adam's 2004 gold medal came about via retroactive drug testing. So he had originally gotten his gold medal at the food court of the Atlanta airport about 2012, but never had a proper ceremony. He'd only had that for winning silver. So USA Track and Field did a gold medal ceremony for him. His wife is crying. His parents are crying watching it. I'm crying watching it. He's crying while it's happening, which I didn't love because it was about 30 minutes before he had to compete. But that was a really special memory for me, getting to be part of that, the whole experience of that with, one of my heroes growing up, Adam Nelson. So Adam Nelson and Marisa, both. They're both great. Rude. All right, so if you're struggling with nutrition, can't eat enough, or you feel too full, or you're looking for budget-friendly nutrition options, this is actually very apropos because I've been coaching high school football again for the last 6 months or so. So we get a lot of the kids who are trying to gain a lot of weight in the off season, and not everyone's got the means to go out and get protein shakes, and parents can't meal prep or whatever. So if you're struggling with getting enough calories in to mass or even just to maintain and recover well from a fullness standpoint, like you're eating so much, but you're still not gaining, then you're going to want to increase your dietary fats because you're getting 9 calories per gram there instead of 4 calories per gram for protein and carbs. So you can get those calories with much less food volume. I would do this after you've hit your protein goal. So that could be as simple as like 2 spoonfuls of peanut butter after each meal, because no matter how full you are, you can probably get 2 spoonfuls of peanut butter down. Dr. Mike did tell me a story about a really good powerlifter he'd worked with on his diet, a guy named Tom Emmerlander. And Tom was really lean and big and jacked. He was like 6'4", 275 and lean and wanted to go up to 308s. And I think he said something like Tom was having like 5 spoonfuls of peanut butter after every meal, for like 5 or 6 meals a day. So he was going through like the big jar every 2 days. So that would be good. And then on the budgetary side of things, getting protein in is not overly expensive. Here in the new year, Marisa and I both have been, dieting some, and she looks it a bit more than me. But Marissa's been taking it back to her old school bodybuilder roots, and I'm along for the ride with just, canned tuna, the albacore in water. And a can of tuna is 30 grams of protein with 1 gram of fat, and it costs $2. So could you, eat 6 cans of tuna in the day and have, they might even be on sale if you, buy 2, get 1 free or whatever deal like that. But that, tuna and rice, ground beef, the lower, less popular cuts of beef, all going to be good options. Like, you don't need supplements, whatever, finding the time to do some meal prep, and it might be boring, but it will be effective even if you're eating the same stuff over and over. Rice is cheap, tuna is cheap, ground beef, it's gotten more expensive, but you can still get it in the right quantities. You might just have to freeze it. But yeah, you might have to give up some enjoyment and the sacrifice side of things there, but you can definitely get it done. Another question that was, what advice would I give to myself mid-competitive powerlifting era for me? So, I actually didn't compete in powerlifting for a particularly long time, just 2010 to 2016, did it well for that time. Main advice I'd give myself would be to have planned general training periods, planned off seasons. I had a couple instances where I had a good meet that was almost a great meet, 1 or 2 attempts away. So I wanted to try and make up for it, whatever mistake I'd made, and go and make it happen on the platform. So I tried to turn around and do another meet 10, 12 weeks later. And I'd usually get 2 or 3 weeks into the training for that meet and then really start to feel the effects of the meet I had just done. Because, when you put 1,000 pounds on your back, you might not be injured coming out of a meet, but you're certainly not healthy. So that not being healthy would catch up to me 2, 3 weeks in. I'd have to scrap that training cycle. I'd be all frustrated, fuck powerlifting, I don't want to do this anymore. And I'd, then usually have a week or 2 kind of pity party of little to no training, and then be like, all right, well, I got to train. So I want to do the stuff that I really enjoy the most, which is more general sport performance type of training, coming from my track and field background. I like to jump and sprint and throw. And I'd do some weightlifting and some stuff that might look like CrossFit and some strongman and all these different things. So I would come back to training and do that for, 3, 4, maybe 5 months, and then be like, all right, I'm healthy. I'm interested in doing powerlifting again. Let's go and do it. Where if instead of trying to go meet to meet like that, I would have just had a planned period of that kind of training. Like, all right, you did a meet, have a week off, maybe an easy reintroduction week, and then do 6 weeks of my fun training, and then I could go back into a powerlifting meet. That could have been a 6 to 8 week process instead of a 4 to 6 month process if I would have done it proactively instead of retroactively. So use the bridge blocks, do the variety in the time where it's appropriate. You don't need to be doing variety and GPP stuff when you're 3 weeks out from a meet or a month out from a meet. That's bad. That's a bad training. That's a bad idea. To maximize your success as a lifter, but there is times where it's appropriate. So do whatever that training looks like for you when it's appropriate. So I got a question about health wearables. So I'd assume this is like a Whoop or Oura Ring type of thing. And how much would that readiness vary during a block? So if you could control well, all other outside stress and consistent sleep and diet and everything, your fatigue during a block, the fatigue's going to get more and more and more kind of throughout the block, and you're going to take a deload and it's decay, and then you get more and more and more, and then it's decay. It's not going to really ever work like that because it's too hard to account for all those things. But wearables and the data that they can give you are a piece of the puzzle. A HRV test, our readiness rating in the app, the strain scores and stuff from something like a Whoop, you can't just rely on that. In my experience using Whoop briefly, it does not account for strength training properly. It's looking so much at heart rate that it doesn't have a good way to measure neural fatigue from high neural force production, like lifting heavy, or muscular strain and soreness, because I would do a big squat workout and it would give me a 7.6 strain, and then I'd go to jiu-jitsu for an hour and it would give me 15 strain. And I was like, I know that the squat workout was harder than the jiu-jitsu. Take that information for what it is. Even if you were to enter your training on there and the new feature they have to that, it still doesn't account for it properly. And I told them all of these things in a couple meetings with them, but because you could do a set of 10 curls with 100 pounds and it looks at that as 1,000 pounds of volume, but you could also squat 500 for 2 and it looks at that as 1,000 pounds of volume, though we certainly know that those are not equal. So take the information in there as just a piece of the puzzle. But generally you should be going from the start of a training block, coming off a deload, oh my God, give me heavy weights, I want to train hard, to, maybe that last day of the overreaching week to, oh my God, give me that deload, I'm almost dead. And then throughout the deload, feel progressively better and better. And it's going to ebb and flow through the course of a week with the undulation that's designed into that, and where your rest days and everything are. But the wearable technology, useful, but just a piece of the puzzle. So a couple kind of similar questions that we got were about, fat loss during a strength block, or I'm doing a cut, when should I do that? And everyone likes to come to me for their fat loss advice. But, do as I say, not as I do. Can you do a cut during a strength block? Sure. Is it the best? No. As you get closer to a meet, you want to maintain your body weight as much as possible so that your leverages aren't changing, so your technique's as stable as it can be, and that you're not hurting your recovery throughout that process by being in a deficit. But if you're going to cut, you're going to cut, and you got to do it sometime. So if you can do a cut during hypertrophy, that's preferred. Cutting or massing during hypertrophy. Of course, massing, it's self-explanatory. You're trying to build muscle, do hypertrophy, do it with a caloric surplus. But if you're going to be a deficit in the cut, you still want to do hypertrophy style training. I guess hypertrophy at that time would become kind of a misnomer, but that high volume training is going to help you retain as much muscle mass as possible throughout your cut, and kind of raise what the calorie requirement is for that cut. Because if you're, just for simple numbers, if you're doing training that has a 2,000 calorie a day demand versus training that has a 1,700 calorie a day demand, doing the higher volume, harder training, it means you're going to get to eat more and still be in a deficit. So, I, for one, would always prefer that. I'm sure most of you out there would as well. So if you can control it, do your cuts and massing in hypertrophy. I mean, you could also mass during a strength block, or, if you want to be a super heavyweight, do it during peaking too. Just do it all the time. Since birth, always massing. It's not the best to do during strength block. It's not the end of the world. You just have to account for it and know that you're not going to recover quite as well. So maybe you're going to do one set less, kind of thing. It's not a huge change, but, in the efforts of being optimal, I'd keep those all to hypertrophy blocks. If you learned something, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check out a 2-week free trial of the JuggernautAI app.